Hi guys, I've made a video of the finishing of a Leopard 1 tank, Leopard 1A5 by Revell. So I've got it to a stage using the instructions, a basic kind of stage where it's built, but it's the stage where I usually take pause and think about the order in which I'm going to paint it, brush paint it. You can't just whack it all together, because then you'll find there's parts that you struggle to reach. This was just a bit of a unplanned one for me. I'd clicked on the wrong one on the model shop. I wanted a Leopard 2 to go with the diorama, as I've already mentioned on previous videos. If you're familiar with my videos, and I clicked on the wrong one because the camouflage pattern is the same, and this was out of action, was out of service before the diorama takes place in Afghanistan. There was Leopard 1s in Afghanistan with Canada, but the decals were German with this one. So you catch me here at the end, scraping off some little bits of this, some little flakes of excess rubber from the moulding of the tracks. The tracks are quite detailed, quite nice. They're just the rubber vinyl ones. A little bit too big, a little bit saggy. I'm sure there's a better phrase. But the famous Leopard 1 skirt along the side hides the top of the tracks anyway. The turret, a little bit of issue with the cage at the back, the storage cages, bins at the back, but they get covered. Revell's A5. The A5 version had additional armour that had been added to it. Polycarbonate Lexan armour panels, which are really nice, really nicely detailed. And I kind of hesitated at first. You see there that there's a space for the smoke mortars that are on the side. I hesitated at first doing it in the order that it asked, but it does fit quite nicely. So it looks like a kind of leather patchwork, the additional A5 later 1980 armour panels that come with it. So you could leave them off if you wanted to do the A4, the earlier version from the 70s. But they do look quite nice, and because I'd had some struggles with the storage bins at the back, they kind of tightened up all the seams and made it look nice and smart. The bits where it was a bit tatty. But like I say, guys, at this stage, I look at where I need to paint before I finish construction of the model. And the pins which attach the Lexan armour to the side of the turret are about 2 or 3 mil long, so you can see down between the turret and the armour. So I'm painting the turret and the inside of the armour, just so I don't have that horrible garish raw grey visible at the end when I've put it all together. I think I did use some super glue to attach the pins then, but as you'll see in a second, I also sanded some of the paint off and used just the Revell glue. You know, in terms of pin marks and ejector marks and flash and stuff like that, not a bit on there, apart from a tiny bit on the vinyl tracks. Really lovely, detailed surfaces. Really nice model, and I think it was really cheap as well. I think it was £20 in the UK. You can see there how the raised pins that would allow you to see down the gap between the armour. So a bit of a gaff there, guys. I did 3-colour armour, 3-colour camouflage for the Bundeswehr German armour, 80s, 90s and 2000s. And you really need to apply the green first, NATO green, and then the brown, and then the black. So I had US drab brown, and then I've applied that first. I don't even know why, but it didn't look right when I'd done the other parts of the camouflage. I think I was just working off the fact I'd done the Fuchs and I'd done the same camouflage on that, where I had done green first, and I think I'd struggled a little bit brush painting the lighter brown over the green. Didn't get good coverage, so I thought, oh, well, I'll do it the other way around. But really, the road wheels should be green. I've seen on some versions that the road wheels are camouflage, in line with the camouflage on the upper surfaces. I don't know, guys. I'm not hung up with loads of authenticity issues. I just when I'd put the green and the black on, though, it didn't look right. It looked more like an American camouflage, and I had to go back and alter it. So don't copy me. Do the green as the base colour, and then just copy them. Go off the instruction sheets. So I'm still experimenting with some of the pigments that I bought. You can see the background there. Vallejo mud and dust pigments, and I tried to use all of them on this vehicle. Here, I think this was the umber, which I've watered down a little bit, and I'm trying to work it into the gaps and seams in the track. Well, the tracks were quite easy to paint. I think I base coloured them black brown, German black brown by Vallejo, and it took the paint really well, actually. They've got big rubber blocks on the tracks, but the winter version, the steel X-shaped grips that they pin on, I think that's what's on the front of the Leopard one. There's like a crisscross pattern, raised pattern, moulded onto it's a separate piece, and I think that's the winter bolt-on metal tracks. So I think this is working with some of the dust and sand effects, just trying to build up some mud and dirt on the wheels, and then when it dried, just blotching far too much of the stuff on there, but it did give a nice dried mud effect. Obviously I do my pin washes and my oils and my transfers and my decals before I do these effects, these pigments, but I'm getting the road wheels to a certain point where I can put the tracks on and then cover them with the armour skirts on the upper part of the tank. So I'm just trying to get the lower part of the tank to a finished standard. Sorry, it's a bit of a long one, this, guys. Just got a lot of footage from the build, and I've been wanting to put something up. I've just done an update video recently, but it's a while since I've done a build video. It's a long time since I've done a diorama video. But dioramas, I think it's easy to come home and you know, a long day at work, come home and follow the instructions of a model. There's something about the mindfulness of it. There's something about the kind of switching off of it. It doesn't involve for me a lot of creativity. You know, put A and B together, squirt some glue. Now put that piece together with C, squirt some glue. It's mechanical. You can switch off. You can have TV on in the background. You can have music playing, and I find that very different to building dioramas, which is creative. You have to be in the mood, using your imagination, and it does make a bit of a mess as well. Plaster dust and paint everywhere and bits of polystyrene everywhere. So at the moment with my work load, I'm just coming home and doing maybe 45 minutes to an hour of a model in the evening. And I'm certainly not wrecking the place to do a diorama. Hopefully I'll feel differently in the near future, because my ideas are all diorama based. I'd love to do a First World War trench scene after this. So yeah, US olive drab, brown, nice tone, nice shade, nice finish on the model, 2 coats. But unfortunately, it's just the wrong order to do it for the look that you want for that West German camouflage. But it's done now. You see the crisscross track adapters at the front there. I think that's what they are. Engine exhaust at the back. Lots of tools on the side. Yeah, it's a nice one to paint, this, guys. But I think the airbrushes win with this one, as with most camouflage schemes. It's just a little bit harder with a brush, with so much surface detail, to get nice straight lines and nice clean boundaries between your different colours. But you see how the top part of the track is covered, but you can see how there's some surplus track there. There's a bit of a soft kind of sag of the rubber. It's not very tight on. Yeah, it's what you'd expect of a tank designed by Porsche. It's got a nice shape about the front. The fenders, mud guards look really good, and yeah, I think it was in service from 1965 to 2003 for the German Army, 2007 for the Australian Army, I think 2007 for the Canadian Army, and the Greeks, Brazilians and the Turkish still use it. So a long-serving tank, a real success. Yeah. So the green I was using, so I think it's pretty close to the NATO green that it's supposed to be. The green I was using was just the German reactive green. I don't really enjoy buying fresh pots of paint for every single tank. I'm not that hung up on authenticity, so I try and study the pictures and find something similar. Now, obviously, your Second World War tanks generally, and your Soviet tanks, there's a certain amount of fading, there's a certain amount of variation in factory colours, but then your modern British, American and Western European tanks like this one, I think the colours are quite specific, and that's my mistake. I should have got NATO green, NATO black, and I think it's just called NATO brown. In the 70s, there was versions of the Leopard 1 where you'd leave the Lexan armour off, the additional armour, and you could do just a olive green paint scheme across the whole. It's kind of like a very grey green. I don't know how authentic that'd be with the decals that are provided, but I think you could just leave the late 1988 arm panels off. And then the Greek army have their own scheme, the Australian army have their own scheme. So I think the Dutch, German and Italians all have the same scheme. So there's a bit of alternative paint schemes available, but the decals don't match. So you'd have to maybe look in the box if you've got any old decals knocking about, and you could botch something together. I don't know. I'm only saying that because I think it is a difficult scheme to do, especially if you're brush painting. You know, just have a think before you buy the model. I think eBay does a good trade in alternative decals, just generic kind of, emblems and registration plates from different countries. So like I said earlier on, the camouflage, I didn't get it right. There's a lot more green than brown in the actual tank, and then a lot more black than I put on. So I have to go back to the drawing board with it. But yeah, it was an enjoyable build. It was a detailed model. It was a well-engineered model, and overall, I think it turned out okay. Am I going to try and avoid it's really specific, accurate, computer-generated Western European paint scheme, camouflage paint schemes in the future? Possibly a little bit. Go back to my rough and scruffy approach, because I've got KV1 to do, and I've got a few Second World War tanks to do, and mostly one colour across the whole tank. So I don't know how just Vallejo plain black rates against Vallejo NATO black. But this is far too little compared to what you need. The actual scheme has quite a lot of black. I don't know the split, but maybe 15% of it is brown. 40% black, 45% green, something like that. And I was doing it as kind of the black on British uniform and American uniform camouflage, where it's just a highlight. So I've caught up with myself a little bit there. Actually look back at the instructions, and so now I'm doing some oil washing on it, and starting the process of weathering it and aging the surface and making it a little bit more realistic. After the pin wash and the oils, I went back when it had dried with just some light sea grey in acrylic, and tried to brush over a few of the details and just harmonise really the three different colours in the camouflage. Just highlighting with light grey looks good, I think, on all three of those colours. But I did wipe most of it off the brush, so it's not super obvious in the video. I just think sometimes with camouflage, you know, a bit of sun fading, a bit of dirt and dust, and you kind of knock it back a little bit so it's not very stark like a toy. I think camouflage tanks, more than tanks that are just one colour, need that. The brown in real life doesn't look as light as it looks on there. Kind of looks really light, but it doesn't look too bad in real life. This is the third one to use. This is slate grey, kind of a dust effect that came with the Vallejo mud and dust effects. So I'm just putting it around the opening for the turret just to see the effects that it's going to have. It certainly fades and ages the model surface, this one. I'm pretty pleased that I got these kits, even though I was doing something very similar. Anybody who's seen my older videos will see that I was doing something very similar with pastel dust that I ground myself. These colours are just a little bit more authentic. They just feel a bit more realistic. But essentially they're the same. Ground up kind of powder paints. And pastel's definitely a cheaper option. And I'm glad that I've used pastels for so long. And but this one, this slate grey, is nice at just unifying the different colours on the tank, giving it a bit of a sun fade, and covering it in just a film of dirt and dust. On this tank with all these pigments, I was thinking about the oils effect, where model makers use dabs of oil paint and then brush them into the surface with a wide flat brush, and it just gives a variety of interest to the surface. You can see there's little bits of light and dark and chips, and when I was using the pigments I was thinking about that kind of effect. So I didn't want to give a flat, consistent surface necessarily, but like dots of mud, dots of wear and tear where boots have been. Yeah, I was pleased with the effect. Like I've said already, I think a camouflage tank needs these effects to kind of make it look more realistic, else it just looks like a toy. Painted the tools on the side just in a light brown, and then used silver on the shovels and the pick heads. There's lots of Leopard 1 kits that you can get, as I'm sure you know, guys. The older ones obviously don't have this additional armour coating around the turret, and they have a box, I think an aiming, some aiming technology in a rectangular box that's just above the gun. and there's a few variations, but I like this version, this Revell version, and it's the cheapest one available, and it's got some lovely detail and stuff. There's no photo etch in there, and maybe the decals are a little bit restrictive, because I think 12 countries operated this tank as their main battle tank in the 80s. So I think a bit more of imagination from Revell, and they could have included some different decals and some different paint schemes. The 3 paint schemes that it suggests to go with the registration plates provided are all identical. For some reason it repeats all 3, I suppose for the sake of the decal placement. I painted the tail lights in red, and the headlights and the wing mirrors silver. There was no clear plastic parts for this model. I'd have thought the wing mirrors and the headlights at least would have got clear plastic parts, but like I say, it's the cheapest one. What you do get is the aerials in very thin steel wire. Finally, I just thought the sand coloured dust was really good at just burnishing a little bit over any silver. I've done some silver chips just on the mud guards really, and on some of the footrest, the footholds for climbing on board. And I just thought it was a nice touch that the pigments, the sand coloured pigments, just knocked it back really nice and made it less obvious, less garish. So some pictures, guys. As always, there's a few detailed pictures on my Instagram, Supermodel Dave. Please leave a comment, like and subscribe if you like this video. And I promise I will get back to dioramas when I've got a bit more time and a bit more space in the room to make a mess. Thanks for watching, guys.